Hello, this is Lee back once again for another video, and my final video of the night, and by my clock it's still today, not yet tomorrow. So I fulfill my promise of getting out my Mae Young Classic WWE Network review of the entire show out tonight. So I'm kind of tired now. I finished about 10 hours of wrestling. That's right, the equivalent of about 3/4 of a Shimmer weekend from WWE with their all-women tournament. The finals, I made a little bit of a comment. I thought, uh-oh, did I just make a faux pas? Because, you know, there's this, of course, there's been, in the United States of America, there have been some deadly hurricanes and flooding, and, you know, my heart, you know, I do have one, goes out to the persons who've been suffering because of these disasters. And of course, Orlando, Florida, you know, one of the locations with these shows going on. Of course, it was recorded at the end of July, so no one was there was any danger unless you know, they were there afterwards. A lot of people evacuating the area. But the finals for the Mae Young Classic were shown, well, recorded this and shown live on the network about a month later. Of course, you know, these shows are shown long after, you know, they actually took place. But this was live on the WWE Network in Las Vegas, Nevada. This big fancy venue. It looked huge. It looked packed by comparison to the small NXT venue for the, you know, first round and quarterfinals and semifinals. But, you know, I've often heard at these shows, they say, well, you know, the side that's not facing the camera has, you know, the opposite side has hardly anybody there. But the way it was set up, it looked like a pretty packed crowd. So much bigger, much more like, you know, Raw or SmackDown. So I believe it was piggybacking on one of the regular shows. And then they had 205 Live after that. Well, anyway, I cut out after that. So I was watching the show, and I actually watched the countdown to the finals special, which was about 20 minutes long. I watched that after the live event. So I'll just cut right to the chase. Spoilerific spoilers. Spoilerville, Population U. Stop the recording if you don't want to know yet. Of course, the entire internet already knows what happened. They knew what happened before the matches even took place. Whatever, I just was along for the ride to enjoy watching on my television. So, it comes down to Shayna Baszler against Kairi Sane. Kairi Hojo, the sole Joshi of the tournament. And Shayna Baszler, very impressed with her. Every match she's been in has been better and better. You know, going from a rookie, because she was an MMA fighter, and going into becoming a professional wrestler, far outshining other MMA people who have appeared in wrestling shows and not really done much. I'm not really sure, I don't know a whole lot about it, but it almost seems like it's easier to go from professional wrestling to MMA. Well, maybe not in all cases, ask CM Punk, but for the opposite. So Shayna Baszler seems she's thrown herself completely into the professional wrestling world, and so I give her a lot of credit. She kept her composure, you know, in the big venue. And of course, Kairi Sane, you know, coming in. You know, the two of them, they have a little bit fancier costumes this time. They've had some time to heal up. Kairi Sane, you know, still with her pirate, you know, white, you know, outfit with a big feather and the cap and the spinning wheel and everything. Of course, Shayna Baszler, the Queen of Spades, with her fighting outfit and her big black mouth guard to make her look more intimidating, wet hair. You know, with the promos, the videos they showed, there was a lot of preliminaries, and there was even some goofy commercials beforehand. John Cena was trying to sell me some powder or something, and I don't read too much into that. And something about bootios or whatever. Anyway, the actual show, you know, they did all this hype, all this swelling music, you know, just bringing the excitement to a fever pitch. I think it's just one match. 100 minutes program, 94 minutes, something along that line. But you know, Kairi Sane, you know, just she had a few, you know, things to say in the promo, just, you know, humble, going for it. I have the experience advantage in wrestling with the subtitles, speaking in Japanese. And then Shayna Baszler, it was much more focused on her and talking about how, well, I'm going to do this. I know how to take apart the human body. And, she thinks she's going to overcome everything and she can never be broken. Well, I'll be the one to break her this time. And, it was good. I think it's much more impressive if a wrestler can just grab a live mic and just do a promo right there and really sell it and really get the crowd going. These little edited vignettes is a lot easier, but it's an entertainment show. I wasn't there live, so all I'm watching is what they feed to me on television, the angles and everything. Let's get into the actual match. I didn't take a lot of notes. I had like one sheet of paper. Barely filled it out. Was just watching the match. This reminded me of a video game match. It really did. It starts out, the two competitors, and one is just move after move after move after move after move, and they kind of get bored and they start kind of showing off, and then all of a sudden, the reversal, and the other person, nah, and then back and forth, and then the resolution, and then the respect at the end. GG, good game. That's not exactly how it went. Maybe that's a testament to 2K Games, despite them killing off their wonderful series on the Xbox 360 and PS3. That's another video. I'm calm. But anyway, testament to those video games recreating the drama of a match. I mean, you have people that do it stupidly, but when it's done right, it's done well. You tell a story in the ring. Well, anyway, this was a good match. I rated a good match. It was just one match. They came out, and of course, all the MMA people cheering for Shayna Baszler, and everyone else, all the women's wrestling geeks, fans, cheering for Kairi. A little bit shorter than Shayna. Anyway, at the start of the match, actually, there were a lot of reversals. It was just like, here's one move, reverse it, very quick, dodging, moves, and it was just like, okay. But then, at a certain point, Shayna Baszler just started landing moves. She started just attacking the elbow. Because, the superpower of Kairi is her elbow drop. Just like the Macho Man. They kept comparing it to Randy Savage's top rope elbow diving. They call it the insane elbow. So Kairi sane, the insane, I guess, whatever. But anyway, she does it very well. But it was like, okay, I'm just going to attack that arm so you can't do your finishing move. Which, in the logic of a match, you think, well, what does that matter? She can still beat you. She just won't be able to do that move on you right before she beats you. The match went on, but Shayna Baszler just beating her, almost looking bored. And I thought, this match seems a little short, and maybe it's just because, again, the physical conditioning of someone like Shayna Baszler, much more focused on that MMA style, shorter matches, kind of like Conor McGregor getting tired against Floyd Mayweather. But nevertheless, it came off well. I think Shayna Baszler, ending her matches with the submission holds, evoking that UFC style. As one who doesn't watch UFC, just what I imagine, kind of melding the two together visually. Kairi, she starts to get a bit of a comeback. And here's where the referees, well, I'll say more about the referee. I mean the announcers. Here's where the announcers enhanced the match. They had, of course, JR, back and everything. They were talking about the ribs. Shayna Baszler with her facial expressions. Oh, my ribs, keep getting hit. And so Kairi was targeting the midsection, doing the damage. Now, of course, with wrestling plausibility, it's kind of like, you can imagine Jim Cornette getting up there and yelling. Is that, the wrestlers, they get these debilitating injuries, seemingly. And then they go ahead and do the special move that requires that limb be fully functional anyway. At the same time, Kairi, you did see she was making an effort. There was a part where she does this really robotic, forced, fake march across the ring before she does like this, charging move in the corner. But every time she did it, she's grimacing, like, just to move my arms is painful, but she still has to do it because it's the move. That's the way you do the move. So, that was kind of amusing. And then she's every movement. So she was really trying to make it believable. There's a certain amount of suspension of disbelief you still do any one of these moves would basically end a real fight, just about. But whatever. It was entertaining. So I thought they both did well. It gets to a certain point where Shayna Baszler is placed in the Tree of Woe, which is where, the person's hung upside down from the turnbuckle with their, head dangling above the mat. And Kairi was above her to do this double foot stomp, drop. She was going to drop onto her chest, bounce off. And she does this, and I think this was the moment. There was a similar moment in one of Shayna Baszler's matches where, the person comes off the top to get her. And, of course, in the video game, this would be called a catch finisher, where they dive off the top rope to get you, and then you grab them in a move, reversing their move. So she kind of got, she just kind of got hit a little bit by, no, I think, I'm confused. It was either this move or it was kind of like a punch that she did. But she did some kind of move where she grabbed Kairi in a sleeper hold. It was really just holding it there, and you thought, that's the end of the match. And I was thinking all along, Kairi's got to win. But then I thought, it could go either way. Maybe they're going to go with this MMA, 4 horsewomen thing, wrestler versus MMA, and maybe they're going to use Shayna Baszler to promote that. But how could they let the heel win the Mae Young Classic? Because she is a heel. And Kairi, I'd heard so much buzz about her. It's like, was she just going to come up, show up, make Shayna Baszler look good and leave? Or is she going to go on and fight Asuka in NXT or who knows what? It's wrestling. Anything can happen. People have schedules. People have injuries. Things change all the time. But what are they planning? I'm just trying to guess without having any backstage knowledge or, idea of how they do things. Well, so I thought, well, it could go either way. But I was thinking, Kairi's going to win. She just has to win. Not just because she's the good girl against the bad girl. But anyway, so she does the O's and she fights her way out of it. Because you think, she looks like she's about to pass out. But she makes a comeback, a plausible comeback, gets out of it. She ends up doing the elbow again onto the ribs. I know, I'm skipping so many moves. I'm skipping so many moments. See the match for yourself once it goes to on demand from the WWE Network to see the whole match. I'm sure there'll be clips and highlights. I'm sure they're already posted as I post this. But anyway, good match. So Kairi wins. And after the match, she's triumphant, screaming, she often looked to the crowd and just, letting everything out, like she's gonna, gather strength. Classic wrestler thing, great acting with her facial expressions. You don't need to speak English. You can do it. Well, she looks with concern down at Shayna, who's just grimacing in pain. The acting was wonderful. She was exhausted. She's gritting her teeth. She's breathing hard, just clutching her chest. And she reaches out her hand. And then there's a handshake, finally, because at the beginning of the match, Shayna just kind of gave her, I don't care, I'm not going to shake your hand. And she congratulated her, and there was a hug. And I thought, uh-oh, this is wrestling. She's got the armor on her neck. This might be a submission hold. But no, it was not to be. She respect. So now the face turn, possibly, for Shayna Baszler. Showing respect to the opponent who defeated her. There was a lot of respect showing. It's like, well, if they don't respect each other at the beginning of the match, they surely do at the end. Of course, Shayna Baszler, had not shown respect to her other opponents, but this was the first time she was beaten in this tournament, so there you go. So great match. Triple H comes out, and raises the arm of the tiny, by comparison, Kairi. And, they have the big plastic ice sculpture-looking trophy behind her, and give her the bouquet of red flowers. And Sarah Amato, Sarah Del Rey, with her black dress, comes out, congratulate her, and you see the wrestlers in the audience cheering for them, the former participants, and, it was a really feel-good moment, as they say, good television, blah, blah, blah. It was fun, it was entertaining, exciting. Before the match, I didn't say this, but before the match, this woman announcer, Lillian? Is it Lillian Garcia? Anyway, she gives a big long speech about how, it's, there's, blah, 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 it's such a momentous occasion, everything, and it was just like the two wrestlers are just like, come on, we want to fight. Nice, get the speech over with so we can fight. That was kind of funny. Also, I think the very first, when they were doing the back and forth at the start, I think, I forget now who was pinned, but one of them was in a pinning predicament. And you could clearly see that both the shoulders were up, or maybe just one shoulder was barely touching the mat, and the referee was counting. It's like, come on, it's the camera, it's live TV, whatever, it's a mistake. If you're sitting on one side, you probably wouldn't notice it, but for the viewers at home like myself, it's like, come on, ref, what are you doing? And there was another time he was counting 1, 2, and they were like practically touching the ropes, and then someone just finally put their leg on the rope, and then he stopped, and the announcers even caught on. They were like, well, right by the ropes, referee counting anyway. And when he slapped him out, it was just this loud boom, boom, because, suppose they put the microphones under it, wrestling secrets exposed and all that. Well, anyway, that's the end. Mae Young Classic, great series. So if they're going to make a show out of this, it better be just as good, just like, unlike 205 Live from the Cruiserweight Classic. And if it's going to be women's wrestling for a mainstream audience, great. Do it well, please. Treat your wrestlers well, treat your fans well, and all's well that ends well. I'll certainly be sorry to see these women go from the independent scene if they end up all in the employ of the WWE with exclusive independent contracts. But at the same time, for their welfare, their healthcare bills and all that sort of thing, good for them. Mercedes Martinez, she's got a family now. All these people, they've earned it. So, other wrestlers will come to fill their shoes, and hopefully they won't just go for the good looks, but they'll go for the technique, the storytelling, the acting, the quality. I wanted to say a little bit more about some of the other supplemental materials now. If you're watching this on the WWE Network, you have the 8 episodes of the Mae Young Classic to watch. You also have the finals match itself with all the preliminaries and the kind of awardness at the end. There's also the Parade of Champions, Bracketology, which, I finally watched Bracketology. It was worth it for the little bits. Oh, there was a moment I forgot to mention from the finals. They quickly interviewed, they showed, some of the celebrities in the audience, some of the other wrestlers who were watching. Asuka was there. The 4 horsewomen of WWE and of MMA were there. Ronda Rousey and so forth. Becky Lynch, Bayley, and forget the others. They also had the Stars of Glow. Well, I haven't talked about Glow yet. The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling was this 1980s wrestling show. I didn't watch it at the time. I've watched a little bit of it since, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I'm sorry to say, even, by the standards of the day, it was just not very good. I mean, yes, it was an all-female promotion, and there were, injuries, and, but the acting was bad, the gimmicks were silly. It was very much comedy wrestling, so I just couldn't take it. But anyway, Netflix, the streaming service with DVDs in your mail, they've come up with all these original programs lately, these original series, and one of them I was hearing about was called Glow. Like, Glow? They're bringing the old show back? It's like, no, it's a modern-day reimagining of the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. So it's kind of like the origin story, the backstage, but it's like a fictionalized version with changed names and different characters, and some of the people that make cameos in it or play some of the characters are actual wrestlers themselves. So they had a few of the Stars of Glow, the TV show on Netflix, and they just talked briefly, and they mentioned Kia Stevens, Awesome Kong from TNA, Amazing Kong from Shimmer and Indies in Japan, and very, very briefly Karma from WWE. But I don't know, I just kind of feel like, maybe they're on bad terms, because they did feature her, which was great, but they didn't name her, they didn't mention her past with WWE at all. It didn't have a little, former, WWE wrestler or anything. It was just Kia Stevens, Star of Glow. Okay, starring in Glow. Oh well. So I haven't yet been tempted to watch that show. It just doesn't sound like it appeals to me. It sounds much more like a soap opera, almost like a Total Divas type of show, a fictionalized, presumably true reality, but not really, still scripted thing about wrestling. I'm not even sure if there's any full matches in it or if it's just more about the behind the scenes of presumably what it was like to be in Glow at the time in the 80s. Anyway, and it was compared to Orange is the New Black, which was women's prison movie. Sounds exploitative. I don't know, whatever. The other program that you can see with the Mae Young Classic, bracketology and the episodes and the finals and the road to the finals, which I watched after the finals, so I watched them in the wrong order. And bracketology I watched after the show. Well, in the road to the finals, there is a lot of talk about what's going to happen. Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane. But there was a 6-woman tag team match. 3-on-3. And here's where my notes come in. So let me see if I can just a minute. So here are my notes. So we had Santana Garrett, Sarah Logan, and Marty Bell on one side in this 6-woman tag team special attraction match, which I think may have happened after the actual tournament. It seemed a little more relaxed. Everybody seemed a little bit more of a fun mood. It was the same crowd. This was at the Full Sail Performance Center still. And then on the other side you had Jazzy Gabbert, alpha female of course. And then you also had Kaylee Ray, of course. And then you had Tessa Blanchard. And in this match, I felt like, Kaylee Ray, I feel like she really did not show her full potential in this match. You saw more action from her in the Shimmer clips that they showed in the bracketology. There's so many possibilities. Sometimes these wrestlers, they have a limited schedule. Maybe they're recovering from injuries, and so they just can't do as much, so they kind of write around that. I'm not sure, but she just didn't seem to do as many of her old moves. So I like Kaylee Ray, but this is just not all she could do. And she got a bit of a bloody lip at the end of the match. She was, it looked like maybe just her makeup was smeared, but there's just this big red by her lip, and she was smacking a gum at the start. Maybe she bit her lip by mistake, but anyway, Marty Bell. My goodness. Where was this Marty Bell during the matches? Did they tell her to tone it down? What happened? She just seemed so free, so full of energy, with her, rapid moves and just craziness. Maybe the pressure was off because this was just kind of like a fun little match. There was no story, just like here's a match. She was just full of energy, and she was taking all kinds of punishment and abuse from alpha female Jazzy Gabbert. And it was funny because, maybe these were the cynical fans, or maybe who knows what was going on, but they were chanting, "We want Jazzy," "We want Jazzy," and they were just chanting for her. And when she came out, they were like, "Yeah!" And whenever she got hit, they were boo, boo, even though this was the heel team, and she's the bully of the group. And you could tell they were kind of goofing her up because Jazzy was like, she's so stern, she was kind of like smiling a little bit and kind of like forcing herself not to smile. Almost like, I remember Mercedes Martinez when she was starting to go bad in Shimmer. She would just smile like crazy because people were like, just kind of flirting with her and cheering her. Even though she was being bad, she was chopping people and just, she really had to heal it up before they would finally let her go and let her grimace and frown like she always wanted to. So alpha female Jazzy Gabbert smiling in spite of herself. And she wins. She finally wins. Let's see, who did she defeat? She defeated Santana Garrett and Marty Bell as well. Anyway, it's not that important, but the match was entertaining. It was fun. You could tell everyone was having fun, but the crowd really was just dominating. This was sort of the crowd just taking over. And Triple H, the man himself, the Game, he came out in his business suit and his big beard and his shaved head at the end, and the crowd was chanting, they chanted women's wrestling, but then they were chanting, "We saw Jazzy, we saw Jazzy," and he said, no, you did that to me at the Cruiserweight Classic, and it cost me a lot of money. So I'm not quite sure what that was all about. You know, he's just saying the smarky fans or whatever, cheering the heels. But anyway, he gave a little speech about the pot of gold, and you know, the guy makes some good speeches. I don't know if he writes his own speeches, his own promos, but just, you know, there was something in bracketology. He was talking about how, you know, yeah, I know there's this glass ceiling and everything, but, you know, we're giving you a platform, and you're going to stand on that platform and launch off from it as if that ceiling isn't even there. You're going to crash through. And they're just like, yeah, you know. And you know, it was inspirational. He talked about the pot of gold, and the fans are the pot of gold, and the men would go across the rainbow, and then they'd find the pot of gold, and the women would go, but there was nobody there. And I'm not really sure if I agree with him, even though it was an inspiring speech and it got a lot of standing ovation. Is it really true that there was no audience for women's wrestling back in the day? Or is it that those who were putting on wrestling perceived that there wasn't or shouldn't be, and tailored the product to guarantee that there would not be? Because I feel as if, you know, in Japan, you see the Joshi, the crowds were packed with people, and the young schoolgirls were cheering the loudest, and they were the ones that became the next generation of wrestlers. You know, you had these wrestlers coming in from Japan to the United States to have these small little special attraction matches, and, you know, they got huge cheers. But it seemed like the promoters were more interested in sex appeal. They're more interested in models, you know, stripping in the ring, and, you know, flirting with the guys and having love triangles and soap opera. It's like they didn't treat the women with respect. Or maybe there would be one woman who would get all the attention at the expense of all the others. It happened many times. And so I'm not really sure really what the problem was, but I feel as if it was the promoters more than the fans who let us down. And yes, there are those brand loyalty fans who will believe whatever the promoters tell them. If the promoters tell them that women's wrestling is bad and stupid and you shouldn't like it, they won't. If the promoters tell them, oh, the women are just there for eye candy, that's what the fans will believe. So if that's the case, then the promoters are now telling them, oh, women's wrestling is good. Women's wrestling is great. We're going to give you more women's wrestling. Well, great. You're already preaching to the choir, but you're trying to convince the fans who, for years, have been shunning it, thinking that it's no good, that it's garbage, that it's just fluff, and that the men are the real wrestlers. The thing is, wrestling isn't real. This isn't as if, you know, the men are so strong the women just can't compete. You know, Lucha Underground has men and women against each other all the time. You just have to make it believable. You just have to tell the story. It's not as if the women can't do it. There's obviously women who can. Maybe they're a tiny percentage of your populations, but, you know, they're exceptional. And, you know, not everyone can be a wrestler, male or female. It's a hard life. You know, it's fake, but, you know, they take the bumps and bruises. They risk a lot in the ring, as we know. Traveling schedules and, you know, being independent contractors, not getting the benefits of, you know, full-time, you know, employees of a lot of companies. There's a lot of unfair things. And, you know, a lot of people do scoff at wrestling and say, oh, it's fake, it's, you know, lowbrow, it's violent, it's not good entertainment. I mean, so there's lots of fans, but wrestling is probably, you know, as unpopular as it's been in a long time. It's not like the heyday in the 80s when it was big time. You know, people know who some of the wrestlers are, but it's not like back when Hulk Hogan was big. So they have an uphill battle, these women wrestlers, in the world of professional wrestling, which is kind of at a low point, kind of oversaturated, kind of bloated, kind of tired, you know, still seen as something that, you know, yahoos and little kids like, but nobody else. Good fodder for video games. But anyway, so I wish all the women luck. I wish everyone's safety, you know, who is in the path of those deadly storms. You know, rebuilding is taking place. You know, years back, we'll look back and hopefully say, you know, better times are ahead. But Triple H, if you're serious, you know, Stephanie McMahon, if you're serious, Vince, if you're listening, all you people, give us good women's wrestling. Give us the type of thing that we'd see in Shimmer on your program. And if you're serious, you will draw the fans. Your whole product has to be good, but every little piece of it, every piece of the puzzle has to be good. I think the best wrestling would be like a variety show. You have different kinds of things. You can have multiple shows, but don't make them all 3 hours. That's a lot for fans to digest. These sort of one-off things, that's fine. WWE is not the first to do this. TNA, one night only, Knockouts Knockdown. I think they did 4 or 5 of them. But I think, this was a little bit better just because there were more participants, and they treated it a little bit more like anything can happen as opposed to, well, we have all these jobbers. We're going to make our model talent look great, and that's it. So kudos to WWE. And I'm going to put this review up because I'm tired. And there'll be more reviews coming. The summer's almost over, but I have many more videos in me. So hopefully you'll be seeing those before too long. So thanks for watching, and sorry about any glitches and rough, problems, production problems, editing. It happens. It happens to us all. All right. Goodbye for now.